What's up, guys? So today is day one of the pantry slash freezer challenge that I am doing with the Three Rivers Homestead, where you just basically for the month of January try to eat from your pantry. I might interchange it and call it a freezer challenge because my goal really is to use a lot of this meat and vegetables that I have in my freezer because my freezers are full. So I might be calling it a freezer slash pantry challenge, but to me it's the same thing. Today's day one. I'm actually going to get started on dinner. It is going to be a Great Depression recipe. I think it's called Hoover stew or hot dog stew, where it is beans, noodles, tomato, what is it called? Canned tomatoes, broth, and hot dogs. And so my daughter Nehemiah already went and cut up the Nehemiah already cut up the hot dogs, and I just added some oil to my Instapot. I'm going to be using my Instapot as a crock pot just because I don't feel like moving the crock pot off of here. The Instapot's already up here. So I've added already oil to here. Now we're going to add the onions and the hot dogs. That is onions that I grew and I just chopped them up from the garden. And so I'm going to add that much onions. Okay, next we are going to be adding in these 2 cans of tomatoes. This one is petite diced tomatoes with no salt, and the other one is just regular sized diced tomatoes. And I'm going to be leaving the juice in it. I did drain the corn. And have this can of broth that I canned. This is 4 cups of chicken broth.
I already chopped these hot dogs, so now I'm gonna add them into Instapot.
I have this can of beans that I canned, and I didn't need it for another recipe, so it's been sitting in the refrigerator because I opened it and I didn't need it. It's about 4 hours from dinner, and so I am going to just let this put this on slow cooker and let this heat up. Everything is basically cooked in it already, so it just kind of has to heat up and meld the flavors together. I am just going to be adding salt and pepper and then tasting it and see if I need to adjust any seasonings. But this, when I was looking it up last night, as far as a Great Depression meal, oh yeah, I forgot that we have to add in the noodles. It's cooked pasta, and so I am going to be adding in probably a half a pound of elbow noodles right into here and let it cook into. It was just basically during the Great Depression where you basically took anything you had inside of your fridge or pantry and just kind of threw it together. And so I guess hot dogs was really cheap. The hot dogs I used were from Butcher Block, but they've been sitting in my freezer for probably a year at the bottom. And so this is one of the things that I wanted to use up during this challenge. So Nehemiah asked to make some brownies, and she was going to make it from scratch by looking up a recipe, but I realized that we had this box that I got from Costco a long time ago. It's keto slash paleo brownie mix, which basically just means that it doesn't have gluten or sugar and it has not been opened. And so instead, I am going to let her use this. It is grain free. This recipe turned out really delicious. I end up adding onion top powder from onion tops that I dehydrated last year and then ground them into powder because they have a nice onion flavor, as well as garlic powder and Italian seasoning. This isn't a recipe I would have normally put together myself, but I'm glad I tried it and everyone liked it. My son tasted it first and said that it was really tasty. If you're wondering why I have that orange sheet on top of the counter over there, it's because I ordered sealer and it didn't come yet, and so I didn't want to get the counters dirty or mess them up before I was able to seal them, so I just had a sheet on top. And we were rearranging the kitchen this day, and so I was finding all of the measuring cups and stuff like that for Nehemiah. What's up, guys? So today is day 2 of what we're eating at this pantry freezer challenge. I took out some drumsticks that I got from Butcher Block. I already opened them. I got these packs last year, I think when it was a Black Friday sale, and they had a sale on all of their meats. I have 3 packs of them. I sat them out last night, and I'm just going to add all of these drumsticks to my Instapot. We are going to make teriyaki chicken in the Instapot, and then I'm going to make some rice on the stove to go with this. I'm not sure what vegetable we're gonna eat with this, but it is already 5:30. I'm getting a late start. I cut this chicken open to start this at around noon because I was gonna do it in the slow cooker. But then my kids wanted to be in the kitchen. My son wanted to make cinnamon rolls. Then my daughter asked to make bread. So it just took me a while, and then I started cleaning. So I decided instead of using slow cooker, I'm going to now use the Instapot because it will be faster. So this recipe is for making 3 pounds of chicken legs. I didn't measure, and they didn't have the measurements on the bag, but I'm gonna guess this is 3 pounds. So you add 3/4 cup of liquid aminos or soy sauce. First, you add half a teaspoon of sesame oil, 1/4 cup of rice vinegar. Rice wine vinegar. I don't have rice wine vinegar, but I have, this is Asian cooking wine vinegar. So I'm gonna add this, if I get it open. And that's 1/4 of a cup. I have this squeezed puree ginger. I'm gonna add a squeeze of that. And some garlic. I also added 1/4 cup of water. And now we're gonna let this seal and pressure cook it for 12 minutes. So the first thing I have to do is add 5.5 cups of water to this pot and bring it up to a boil with some salt. This is the bread that my daughter started earlier, and then we kind of forgot about it on its rise, on its first rise. This is the second rise. It's not risen all the way to the top because this is a different recipe than the one that I usually make. This was a white sandwich bread recipe, so it's way fluffier, kind of like that white sandwich bread that you get from the store, which my kids prefer better than the other bread that I usually make. It's a little thicker, but I like that bread for turn it into French toast. So we're gonna get this bread in the oven for 30 minutes. Okay, this water is boiling, so I'm gonna go ahead and add in my 3 cups of rice I already pre-measured. I'm gonna turn the heat down. I decided that I'm going to use or make creamed spinach because I looked in my freezer and saw I had these 2 bags of frozen spinach. I've actually never made creamed spinach before. So I looked up a recipe. And it said to take 1 pound. These are both 12-ounce bags, so I'm gonna 1.5 this recipe. And it says place it in the microwave for 4 minutes to defrost it. Once that spinach, I was gonna say broccoli. Once that spinach finishes in the microwave, it says to then place it in a colander and drain it to squeeze out all the extra liquid. I added the 2 tablespoons of butter. Once this melts, they want me to add the garlic and saute it for 1 minute, and then add all the other ingredients, which is salt, nutmeg, pepper, the heavy whipping cream, and the spinach. The spinach just stopped, so let me go get it. So it's still a little icy, but I'm going to squeeze it down and see if I get any excess liquid off. I need Parmesan cheese for this recipe, and I absolutely hate shredding cheese, but I've been buying shredded cheese to force myself because I know it's better for you. So instead of just shredding the 1/2 cup that I need, I'm going to shred 2 blocks of Parmesan cheese, as well as 3 containers of sharp cheese because I don't have any and I want to make pizzas on Friday. Bread just came out of the oven. It looks delicious. this bread that just came out the oven. So we're supposed to just heat this up until it heats through. I think that's going to be really good with dinner. I was going to put the chicken thighs inside the oven or the air fryer after they finished inside the Instapot just to crisp them up a little bit, but I'm not going to. I got a late start, like I said, on dinner. I'm tired. I have a lot of other stuff going on. I was putting away clothes, cleaning my room. If you guys saw that orange sheet on the counter, I think I mentioned it yesterday that I bought sealant to seal the counter and it hasn't arrived yet, so I'm trying to protect the counters with 2 bed sheets. So that is what that is. I have a sink full of dishes right here and I just want to eat, so I'm just going to, the rice is done, the chicken's done, I just need to heat this cheese through and we'll eat dinner. I lied. I opened the Instapot and I forgot that I was going to have to thicken up this teriyaki sauce, and I don't like jiggly chicken, so I am going to put this in the oven. I already turned it on broil. What's up, guys? Today is day 3 of the pantry slash freezer clean out. I am going to make Korean beef today, Korean beef and rice bowls to be specific. I am going to use the leftover rice that we had from yesterday, as well as that cream spinach as the vegetable, because I did have on my meal plan. I have my meal plan right there on the freezer and on the fridge, and I did write pot roast with mashed potatoes, but I knew that I had a kind of a busy day today. When I made that meal plan, I was just kind of filling in meals that I knew that I wanted to eat, but not necessarily thinking about the days of the week. And so I am going to, what I told my family is that's basically what we're going to eat for the week, but if I need to adjust recipes and take from a further day, then I will. So today said pot roast, but then on Thursday said Korean beef, so I'm just switching those two, and then tomorrow I have pot roast. So I did take out the pot roast today so that it could be defrosted for tomorrow. Even though I knew I was going to be making this today, last night I still forgot to take out the ground beef, so I took it out this morning. It wasn't fully and left it out on the counter. It still was a little hard, so I put it in my microwave on defrost. Right now what I have in my pan is these onions and bell peppers. These are onions that I grew from the garden and froze, and I just put them in this cast iron pan. The recipe didn't actually call for onions or peppers, but I have them in my freezer. I'm trying to use them up, so I did add them, and I think it would add a yummy flavor. One of the ingredients that, when I looked this up last night, I used on with my soy sauce yesterday, but I looked up soy sauce alternatives to see what I could use in place of, and it mentioned Worcestershire. Is that how you say it? Worcestershire? It mentioned Worcestershire sauce, and so that is what I'm going to be using instead of soy sauce or coconut aminos or anything like that, because you guys saw I used my last of it yesterday for that meal, and I have 2 bottles of Worcestershire sauce. The other ingredients I'm going to be adding, this is onion top that I dehydrated and then blended. I'm going to be using some of that. Pepper, salt. These are spicy pepper flakes from the garden that I dehydrated and blended. So it called for red pepper flakes, but I'm going to use these. Sesame oil, ginger, puree. I already said the Worcestershire sauce, and then brown sugar. Traditionally, I think this recipe uses like shaved beef, but I looked up a recipe that uses ground beef because that's what I have a lot of. I do get my ground beef from Butcher Block, which is grass-fed. They send me, I think, 2 pounds of free ground beef with every order that I get. And so I do have an abundance of ground beef. I'm actually going to be doubling this recipe because the way the ground beef comes, it comes in 2 packages side by side, and I didn't feel like cutting it open or anything like that, so I'm just placing them both together. So this is super easy to throw together because I already have, like I said, the rice and the cream spinach from yesterday. So really I just needed to make the beef, which is why I chose this recipe rather than making pot roast and mashed potatoes, because I was going to use potatoes that I just harvested from the garden before the frost. And I knew I didn't have that much time because I was doing other things. Okay, now it says to add a half a cup. Well, I'm doubling this, so that's why I'm adding a half a cup of brown sugar, a half a cup of Worcestershire or soy sauce. It said you could do this, or that you should do this in a separate mixing bowl and mix this all together, but I didn't want to dirty up another dish, and so I'm just adding it right here on top, and I'll just continually stir it all over. I'm gonna add in some of this powdered green top onions. I'm not gonna add too much of the spicy pepper because my kids don't really care for spice. Next, I added ginger puree, the salt, the pepper, the sesame seed oil, and garlic. I just searched my pantry and I'm actually going to use some of this chow chow. This is the sweet one. I do have a spicy one as well, but like I said, my kids don't prefer a lot of spice, and so I don't want to open a whole new container unless I know I'm going to use a lot of it, and right now it would just be me using it. So I got the chow chow. I'm going to also use this ginger that I found, and then for dessert my daughter asked if she could make this. You can see this box is all beat up and smushed, but you just add peanut butter, honey, and water, and it makes these Energizer balls. So that is what they are going to have for dessert tonight. What's up, guys? So today is day 4 of the pantry challenge. Today we're gonna have the pot roast that I defrosted. Well, I thought I defrosted in my fridge. It is still pretty frozen. This is a grass-fed beef boneless chuck roast from Butcher Block. It is 3 pounds. I also found, let me find it, this packet. I have like 3 of these inside of my pantry. It's Sunday pot roast with rich gravy, and so I'm just gonna add this with the pot roast and cook it from frozen. I always cook my pot roast from frozen as soon as I got the Instant Pot, because I always forget to take out meat, although I did take this out, but I did. It's still pretty frozen even though I took it out yesterday, is what I'm saying. So I'm going to add this with 1 cup of water because I do not have beef broth, but I freeze dried the drippings from my last pot roast. Because it kind of made beef, what am I saying? Beef stock. It kind of made beef stock, and I dehydrated, freeze dried it, and so I have that powder. And so since I don't have beef broth, I'm going to add this 1 cup of water and then some of that freeze dried powder to this. I set this to pressure cook for 95 minutes. I chose to make instant mashed potatoes even though I have fresh garden potatoes, because I want to use those potatoes to plant this upcoming season without having to buy new potatoes. And so I figured, since I had this on my pantry shelf and I actually only used those potato flakes to make that bread recipe, I figured that I would make mashed potatoes using it. And this is the complete dinner: mashed potatoes, pot roast, and corn, and my children did have a slice of bread with theirs as well. What's up, guys? So today is day 7 of the pantry challenge. Day 6 was yesterday, and I actually was not here for dinner, so I had my son make the pizzas. That is what was dinner yesterday, which was Friday. I had a friend go into labor, so I was at the hospital all afternoon into the night with her. When I got home, I did taste the pizza, and it tasted amazing. So I told him now he's in charge of Pizza Friday, and I'm gonna give my other daughter, Anaya, another day to do dinner as well. So tonight we did this week switch around a few recipes, because if you're familiar, I had some days where I just needed a quick meal, and some days were quicker to put together than other days. And so this day is going to be stroganoff, but it's going to be actually loosely based stroganoff recipe because I do not have mushrooms, and then I'm going to use ground beef. So basically, and I don't have sour cream. So basically, it's going to be loosely stroganoff. I am going to use ground beef instead of like shredded beef. I had thought I was going to use leftover pot roast from when I made pot roast to make the stroganoff, but that didn't happen either because I didn't have enough pot roast, because I forgot to tell my family that to leave the leftover pot roast so I could reuse it. And what we do is, usually when we have leftover dinner, my son or my husband or myself usually eats it for lunch. So I am going to be making my noodles in the Instant Pot. I'm using elbow noodles. And I'm just gonna let them saute. I'm not going to close the lid or anything like that. In my pan, I am going to be using some bacon grease. We save our bacon grease inside of this container. And I'm going to be using some of the bacon grease to saute some of the onions that I have here. These are onions that I grew from last year's garden. So Nehemiah made the brownies that we made earlier this week, the keto brownies that we had 3 packs of. She made that again for dinner, for after dinner dessert. Anaya just chopped up a can of olives for me because we're going to add this to this recipe. That's traditionally not in this recipe, but I have lots of cans of olives. I shared that in another video where I asked for olive recipes and someone said put it in with beef. So that is what I am doing. I'm going to add this in here with the onion. I am using a can of ground beef that I've already canned. Okay, to this mixture, I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons of flour and 2 cups of broth. They actually call for beef broth. I don't have beef broth, but I'm going to use the beef broth that it made when I made the roast. But I know that's not 2 cups, so I'm also going to be using the leftover chicken broth that was in a can of chicken that we used earlier during the week. I quickly changed my mind and decided to add the whole container of the beef as well as the beef broth from the pot roast that I made, and then I just cut up the pot roast into smaller pieces so it kind of blend in better with the ground beef. But I realized the recipe I was using or looking at called for 2 pounds of beef, and that was only 1 pound of beef. Instead of sour cream, I decided to use that half a block of cream cheese that I had in my refrigerator. I decided this pan wasn't going to be big enough, so I figured I would just add it into the Instapot. So I took out the macaroni noodles out of the Instapot and then added in some heavy whipping cream and some sharp cheddar cheese I had shredded earlier in the week, as well as Parmesan cheese. And then I just added the noodles back and mixed it all together. And that was it. Dinner was served. This did come out really, really tasty. Each of my girls had 2 bowls. My son had 2 bowls. And yeah, it came out really good. I would definitely do this again. It actually ended up turning out into like a clean out your fridge from all the leftovers for the week. So this is it. This is the end of week 1 of the pantry challenge. I'm calling it a pantry / freezer challenge. I think we did really good as far as using olives, using the things on my pantry that I wanted to get used up. This tastes amazing, even with all the substitutions. I wouldn't call it stroganoff anymore, but it tastes delicious. I can't wait for next week, week 2, to make some new recipes, use up some more of these canned goods. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.